because working in the city was tiring and she couldn't save any money. The girl quit her job and returned to her family's old home in the countryside. She lived alone in the old house her parents left behind. She planted several acres of rice in the fields and started her own vegetable garden growing fruits and vegetables. Sometimes she would go up the nearby mountain to pick wild vegetables. When not doing farm work, she often made small snacks at home. Occasionally she would sit with friends under the eaves to eat the wild fruits they picked. Although this life was very pleasant, she still wasn't sure whether she should stay in the village. She was still so young. Should she really stay in this deep mountain and grow old slowly here? Annie's old home was in a remote basin, and she had already lived here for a year. At this time the air in the forest was extremely humid during the summer. When Annie returned home after shopping in town, her shirt was already soaked with sweat and humidity. The high humidity always made Annie feel if she had fins she could swim in the air. Annie's rice fields were prone to weeds in the summer. She had to weed the fields almost every few days, but the weeds were very resilient and would regrow in a few days even if they were pulled out by the roots. This made Annie both frustrated and helpless. She often thought that the weeds in the fields could never truly be removed.
畑も道も雑草に覆い尽くされていく。
Next to Annie's house there was a fruit tree, because the fruit was sour and astringent. She had never liked it since she was young. Now looking at the still unpicked fruit, Annie suddenly got the idea to make jam from it. She removed the seeds, mashed the fruit, and added a lot of sugar to balance out the sourness. Then she boiled it in a pot and let it cool. The next morning, she decided to taste the jam. The bread she had baked earlier became the perfect match for the jam. In the summer, many wild vegetables grew in the mountains. Annie would sometimes take her zither and go to the back mountain to collect them. The creek in the mountain was very cold, and she would occasionally see salmon swimming upstream. Annie really liked a wild vegetable called fishwort. Fishwort could be found everywhere, and she could eat it all the way until autumn. At night she often sat by the window reading comics. Moths would always try to get into the house. When preparing for bed, Annie turned off her desk lamp. Outside the window fireflies danced gracefully. Annie planted some tomatoes in her garden. She loved eating tomatoes. On hot summer days eating a chilled tomato could instantly revive her. She would use tomatoes to make pasta sauce, and any leftover tomatoes she would turn into canned food for storage. However, tomatoes were very fragile. They often stopped growing on rainy days. In the forest where it rained often, everyone built greenhouses to grow tomatoes. But Annie didn't build a greenhouse. The auntie in the village suggested she should build one too. But Annie hadn't done it yet, because if she built a greenhouse for the tomatoes, it would mean she was planning to stay here for a long time. She wasn't sure if she wanted to stay yet. In her hesitation and indecision, the air in the forest slowly began to smell like autumn.